Hello, everybody. We're week 10 into this is basically the last week of our quantitative reasoning course, and week 10 is about logic, truth tables, and logical fallacies. We will talk about very basics of logic, what logic is, what do we mean by a statement, proposition, when is a statement true, false, and logical equivalencies, of course. We'll talk about everything. So we start with the first concept, which is a statement. What do we mean by a statement? And in other words, it's also called a proposition. What do we even mean by that? Proposition. A statement or proposition is a sentence that's either true or false. A sentence or a claim, I would say, that is either true or false, but not both. That is either true or false. Either true, write this real quick, or false, but not both. Okay, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a few examples and counter examples as well, but not both. Okay, for example, if I were to ask you, well, 2 plus 2 equals 4. We know this is a statement that is true, right? If I were to tell you that, Karachi is the capital of Pakistan, we know this statement is not true, right? So we'll say it is simply false. Now, this is a statement. These are examples of propositions. This is a statement that if I were to write 2 plus 2 equals 5, you would have said, of course, it's obviously false, right? So such statements which are either true or false are called propositions. Now, there are some statements which are neither true nor false. For example, if I were to ask you if I were to tell you to, for example, close the door, for example, right? These are some examples. I'll put this over here. Examples. I'll also give you some counter examples. Counter examples. For example, if I were to ask you to close the door. Now, this is a statement. I mean, this is a sentence which is neither true nor false. Right? Close the door. It is not a statement. It's actually a command. So, command statement are we wouldn't call it a proposition. We wouldn't call it a statement in the true sense of the word. For example, if I were to ask you, is it raining? Now, again, this is not a proposition because it is a question, right? Now, if I were to say it is raining, now this is a proposition because it may be true, it may be false, right? But if I were to put it in terms of a question, is it raining? This is now not a proposition. Okay, these two things are, these two examples, example one and example two are examples of proposition. They are proposition or maybe a statement, but this one is not a proposition because this statement can neither be true nor false. Okay, I hope it makes sense. Right. Now, a statement, of course, we know that it can either be true or false. I'll give you a few examples and let's find out whether it is a statement or not. Take a look at these statements. Take a look at this. 5 is an odd number. We know it's an odd number, right? So yes, it is a statement. It is true and it is a statement, right? Yes, it is a statement. Whether true or not, whether now we're trying to find out whether the proposition or not. So yes, it is a proposition. X plus 2 equals 5. It is not a proposition because it entirely depends on the value of X, right? It not a proposition. Um, Stop talking. It's a command, right? So it's not a proposition. The earth revolves around the sun. This statement can be true. It can be false. So yes, it is a proposition. I hope it makes sense, right? What do you mean by propositions and what do you mean by um, right. Now let's talk about uh, conjunction. negation, conjunction, and disjunction of a statement. Of course, if a statement can be true or false, we can negate a statement. And so let's talk about negation, right? Negation means opposite of a true value, opposite of truth, right? For example, if I were to, and we represent negation by this symbol, right? We draw a line and we like this. This is a symbol of negation. So for example, let P is a proposition. I'm representing, normally use P and Q to represent propositions. P is a proposition that it is raining, for example, right? It is a proposition, it's either true or false, right? What would be negation P? Negation P would be it is not raining, right? So this negation over here is represented by this word not. Negation means to negate a statement, right? As simple as that. Right. And what do we mean by conjunction? We're going to look at three concepts: negation, then there's a concept of conjunction. Conjunction means mm, conjunction of two statements is true uh, only when both statements are true, right? Yeah, I'll give you example of this. It'll make it better sense. Conjunction of two statements is true only when both statements are true. Okay. And to remember conjunction, we remember the keyword and. Okay. So only if A is true and B is true is that their conjunction is true. It'll make more sense. We'll see a few examples. I'm just going to introduce the idea first. The opposite of conjunction is what we call disjunction. And disjunction of two statements is true. Disjunction of two statements is true when either one of the statements is true. Okay, and we use the keyword or for disjunction, right? And I'm going to tell you their symbols as well. If it's not making sense, hang on a little. It'll make a lot more sense. We'll see a few examples. Conjunction represented by this A cap Q, or we use P and Q normally. So P cap Q, P and Q, P conjunction Q. This is a conjunction of two statements, P and Q. And disjunction is P or Q, or is opposite cap or inverted cap. P and Q, P conjunction Q, and P disjunction Q. Okay, and we'll understand this by using the truth tables, right? Let's learn the truth tables of each one. Actually, let me draw the truth tables alongside for each of these concepts. One sec. Okay, let me draw the truth table for negation. Right. Let's say a negation. There's a statement P which is true, right? Then the statement P is true, then negation P would be false because it's the opposite, right? If P is false, then its negation would be true. This is is something we call a truth table. Right? Let's take a look at the truth table for conjunction. And conjunction, when we say conjunction, we're looking at two statements, P and Q, right? So let's look at it very, very carefully. Take a look at this truth table. By the way, these truth tables are something to remember. Uh, these truth tables are supposed to be remembered. We'll try to course, write it in an intuitive way so that it helps in the memorization. Okay, conjunction. Conjunction, remember the conjunction is and. Again, it is true only when P and Q are both true, right? So let's write all the possibilities of P and Q. So either P is true, Q is true. Either P is true, true is false, Q is false, right? Either P is false, Q is true, or either they're both false. These are the four possibilities. Let's take a look at their conjunction. So P and Q. Right. Now, when we're doing conjunction, let's read the statement again. Conjunction of two statement is true only when both statements are true. Only when P is true and Q is true, it is only when their conjunction will be true. Otherwise, if any one of both is false, then their conjunction will also be false, right? So there's a false, which means conjunction will be false. There's a false, so that their conjunction will also be false, right? Conjunction is false, and because they're both false, so their conjunction will definitely be false, right? If you see if you're seeing a conjunction, the conjunction is true only when both statements are true, right? Let's take a look at disjunction. Okay, now I'm going to copy of the same table, but let me copy of the truth table for disjunction, and we'll approach this truth table very, very carefully. P disjunction Q. Let us read the statement again. Disjunction of two statements is true when either one of the statement is true, right? If you see any one of them true, the disjunction will be true, right? So true, true, of course, the disjunction is going to be true. P is true, but Q is false in the second row. Because one of them is true, the answer is going to be true, right? Look at the third one. Q is true, but P is false. Still, one of them is true, so I'll make the disjunction true as well. In last part, because they're both false, so disjunction will be false, right? Okay. So I hope these words now make sense. And means they both have to be true. P and Q both have to be true for their conjunction to be true. Otherwise, it's going to be false. Right? Similarly, disjunction of both the statements has to be, or means if either P or Q is true, then their disjunction will be true. I hope it makes sense. Right? Now, let's take a look at exam style truth tables. Okay, and this is what the questions are going to look like in exam. Exam style questions. By the way, this table, P and Q, this is something you have to remember. This. Okay, you should be able to start off a question by writing true, 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 false, false, true, and false, false. Right. Let's see. For example, you have the question says, construct the truth table for negation P conjunction Q. Remember, this cap is conjunction, right? Remember, if you remember from above, conjunction. Okay. So what we're going to do is we will start off by copying the table. I'm going to copy off the table right here, right? And half of it is done already, but I'll do it again. First, I will do their conjunction. P conjunction Q. So I'm going to write P conjunction Q. And again, conjunction is and. Right? I hope you remember. And means both of them, P and Q, has to be true for their conjunction to be true, right? So TT is true. Otherwise, the rest of them will be false, false, false. Now I have to do their negation, which means I'm going to copy off the entire thing, right? I'm going to make another column and I will negate their conjunction, which means I am only talking about these two columns, right? Whatever is in this column, I'm going to negate it. I'll write its opposite. So opposite of true is false, opposite of false is true, opposite of false is true, and opposite of false is true. Am I done? Let's take a look at one more. Okay. Now, let's do some logical equivalencies. And logical equivalencies are also very important part of the exam. Logical equivalencies. Now, I have to prove that negation P conjunction Q is equivalent to negation P disjunction negation Q, right? Now, don't get scared by that. It's going to be really, really easy. Let's take a look at this. Uh, First of all, I will draw the table for P and Q. I'll draw this real quick, right? This is the table you started off with. First of all, I'll do P conjunction Q, right? P conjunction Q, right? I'm gonna draw the table for the left-hand side, right? I'm gonna draw the table for the right-hand side, and I will see if the both sides are equal to each other or not. Okay, first I'll do P conjunction Q, right? So P conjunction Q would be conjunction means and means, I hope you remember that, and means both of them have to be true for the result to be true. So true, true, true. The rest of them are going to be false because they're both not true. Okay, now I have to negate it, right? I'm gonna have to write uh, P negation of P and Q. The negation means I have to consider this column and I'll write its opposite. So opposite of true is false and opposite of all these false is true, right? This is first right-hand side. In fact, I will box it and I'll say that this is the left-hand side, in fact. Okay, I'm gonna write at the bottom, this is the left-hand side. Right. Now I have to do negation P, negation Q, and I'm gonna have to take their disjunction. First of all, let me draw another table for negation P. Okay, and by doing negation P, you can do it in separate truth tables as well. It's totally up to you. I think it's better if you do it in a separate truth table. So P, I'll write P over here, I'll write Q over here. In fact, I'll just copy off the same thing. This is the left-hand side. Do this over here. Okay, P and Q are written. This is something you have to memorize. I'm so sorry. First, I have to do negation P. Let me do the negation P real quick. Negation P would be, so I will only have to look at P and I'm going to negate P, right? So if this is true, this is going to be false, right? If this is true, this is going to be false again. And this is false and false, which will become true and true. Okay, so I've got negation P. Let me do negation Q real quick. So I'm going to draw another column and I'll do negation Q real quick. So negation Q would be, please write it very, very carefully. It's actually this. I think I'm even writing it badly. Negation Q would be, because the first one is true, this negation would be false, true, false, and true. I'm writing the opposite of these statements. True, opposite of true is false, false, the opposite of false is true, true, false, true, the opposite of true is false, false, the opposite of false is true. Okay, now I have negation P and negation Q. I'm going to take their disjunction. The cap facing upward, remember, is disjunction. So let me do the negation P disjunction negation Q real quick. Let's go back to and see what disjunction really means. Disjunction means if you're taking disjunction of any two things, if any two of them is true, the answer is going to be true. Or, right? Disjunction is or. So I'm gonna look at negation P and negation Q, and if any one of them is true, the answer is going to be true. Let me write this down real quick. False, false would be false. False, true would be true because one of them is true, true, and true. This is my answer for the right-hand side. This is my answer for the RHS, which is the right-hand side. Now see, if the right-hand side and left-hand side are equal, because if they're equal, then the logical equivalency is proved. Look at the left-hand side, look at the right-hand side. I'm going to zoom out. See, F, F, T, 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 which means it is proof that they're logically equivalent. Okay, so you can write, hence prove that, right? Hence proved that. Or you can write it, you can do it. I mean, I've done it below. You can do it by the side as well. That's totally fine. In fact, I'll write it by the side. It's going to make a lot more sense. Over here, I will write it over here. Yeah, there we go. So I can write hence proved that negation P bracket, sorry, negation bracket P conjunction Q is logically equivalent to negation P disjunction negation Q. I hope it makes sense. Okay, let's do another logical equivalency. I hope it makes sense. Let's do another one. Take a look at this. For example, there's a logical equivalency that I need to prove. I'll do it with you. Let's do it together. Take a look at this. Okay, proof negation P disjunction. Remember this. If the cap is facing upwards, it is disjunction, and the cap is facing downwards, it is conjunction. Okay, let's do this. Proof negation of P disjunction Q is logically equivalent to negation P conjunction negation Q. I'm going to start with the left hand side first. Okay, I'm going to copy. In fact, I'll copy the same truth table P and Q. In fact, I'll just write it this way. I want to true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. This is P and Q. This is the thing you have to remember. Now let's do P disjunction Q. I hope you remember disjunction. Disjunction means if any of them is true, the answer is going to be true, right? So true, true because this is true, right? And true, and because they're both false, the answer is going to be false. Okay, now let's do negation of P disjunction Q, which means I'll take this column and I'll negate this thing. So true is going to be false, 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 and true. Let me write this down real quick. A negation of true is false, 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 and true. This is the right hand side, left hand side, by the way. Negation of P disjunction Q. This is the left hand side. Let me do the right hand side real quick. And for right hand side, I would really recommend doing this because this will. Okay, now let's do the right hand side. P, Q, true, 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 false, false, true, false, and false. Okay, now we have is, first of all, you have to write out negation P and negation Q. Let's write down negation P first. Negation P would be, I will take P and I will negate it. So false, false, true, and true. Note this down real quick. False, false, true, and true, true. Right. Now let me do negation Q. Negation Q is going to be, I will take Q, every single value, and I will negate it. So true, this true is going to be false, true, false, true. False, true, false, and false, and true. Right. Now I'll have to take a conjunction. Remember, now I have negative P and negative Q. I'll take their conjunction. In conjunction, remember, conjunction is very strict. Strict means negation P, conjunction, negation Q. If it sees, now I'm considering these two columns, by the way. If any one of them is false, the answer is going to be false. Okay, this is true, by the way. If any one of them is false, the answer is false. Let's see. False. This is going to be false because one of them is false, one of them is false. And because the both true, only then it is going to be true, right? And this is the right hand side. Right hand side. If you carefully notice, left hand side is equal to right hand side, is it? We have false, 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 false. Last one is true, last one is true, which means I can say left hand side is equal to right hand side. So you can copy the statement from above, and the statement above is, you can say, well, negation of P disjunction Q is logically equivalent to negation P negation Q. I hope it makes sense. Great. Now, this one is done. Let's do one more logical equivalency to make is, I mean, let's do this one. This one is very, very simple though, but let's do it anyway. I mean, this one is way too simple though. Let's say proof P disjunction Q is logical equivalent to Q disjunction P. Very, very simple. First of all, I'll write P and I'll write Q. So true, 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 false, false, true, and false, false. Okay. Let me do P disjunction Q first. So P disjunction Q would be true, true is disjunction means any. Disjunction is a linear one, remember? If any one of them is true, the answer is true. So true, 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 and false. Okay, this one is the right left hand side. We just did the LHS. Now let me do Q disjunction P, right? So I'll write Q first and write P first. I'll copy on the values from P, true, true, false, false, and I'll write down the values of Q, which are true, false, true, and false. Let me do Q disjunction P. So Q disjunction P would be true, 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 and false by the same logic, right? And this is the right hand side. And you can see left hand side is logic equivalent to right hand side. You can say P disjunction Q and Q disjunction P are logically equivalent. Okay, let's talk about logical fallacy. This is this is personally my favorite part, because if you understand logical fallacies, you will be able to see how stupid people are and how stupidly people make arguments. And you'll know in a while. Logical fallacies is when you conclude wrong results, when your chain of argument is incorrect, leading to incorrect conclusions. This is called logical fallacy. Okay, we have, I mean, there are a lot of logical fallacies, but I'm only going to mention five of them. First one is called, and this is very, very common, and especially in our culture, sadly, in our South Asian, Pakistani culture. First one is called ad hominem. Ad, HOMINE, ad hominem. NEM. Yes, ad hominem. And ad hominem is a Latin phrase, but it actually means attacking the person, right? I'll give an example of this. Um, for example, instead of addressing the argument, you attack the person. This is a classic definition of instead of, or I would say, attacking the person, not physically attacking the person. In an argument, you attack the person in terms of addressing the argument. For example, some person um, says something about climate change, for example. You say, well, I don't trust you. I don't think what you're saying is right because you're a stupid person. Right? This is ad hominem, attacking the person instead of the argument. Okay. This is ad hominem. I'll give you an example. For example, um, you say that uh, you can't trust his position on the climate change. For example, you can't trust Ali's position or Ali's opinion on climate change. Opinion on climate change. Why? Because he's a stupid person. Because he is a Stupid person, right? Rejecting the argument by attacking the person. And this is something which happens very, very often in our cultures. This is called ad hominem. Another example of this would be um, why should we, for example, why should we consider her, or for example, let's say there's a student in your class who failed maths midterm, for example, right? Quantitative reasoning midterm. And you say, why should we consider her solution as true? She failed midterm, right? For example, right? This is ad hominem, right? You are attacking instead of attacking the argument, instead of actually looking at the solution, whether the solution is right or not, you simply attack the person. This is called ad hominem. The other one, and I think girls would relate to this a lot, this is called ad feminam. And ad feminam means that you attack just because something is said by uh, something is said by a woman. Something because is said by a woman, you instantly make it correct. This is called ad feminam, right? And ad feminam. This is not a very, I would say, this is not a very um, official, I would say, a logical fallacy, but this is again very, very common. Ad feminam. Ad feminam means rejecting a statement or saying a statement is false. We just talked about statement a while ago. Rejecting a statement only because, not looking at the merit of the statement, but rejecting a statement only because the statement is proposed by a woman, right? For example, if a woman says something, or if a girl says something, and let's say let's say there's a woman which is Sarah, right? Sarah says, um, well, Iran. I'm gonna take a. I'm just making it up. Iran will surrender. Iran will surrender because their economy is weak. Okay, I mean, she makes a statement, right? And this could be true, this could be false, but she makes a statement. And here comes a guy, Yusuf, and he says false. What do you know? You're a woman, right? This is something that happens, right? I hope you can relate to it. I hope the girls can relate to this. What do you know? You're a woman. How do you know about anything, right? What do you know about anything? I'll say this in Urdu. We say this a lot. तुम्हें क्या पता? तुम तो एक औरत हो, right? This is called ad feminam, and this is a logical fallacy. It's a very, very grave logical fallacy. Rejecting an argument just because it is proposed by a woman is a very dangerous, a very bad logical fallacy, right? You should not reject statement just because it's addressed by or proposed by a woman. Anyways, so that's second logical fallacy. The uh, third one is called straw man, and straw man means straw man means misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack, right? Misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack. Okay, I'll give you an example. It's called straw man. For example, I'll just copy off the examples. So let's say here's a teacher that says, there's a person A who says we should reduce students' homework, right? And in response, the person B says, oh, so you want students to learn nothing. So you want students to learn nothing, right? And this is what people do a lot in our culture as well, right? You say something and they misrepresent your argument and make it easier to attack, right? Just because person A said we should reduce someone's homework does not necessarily mean they want the student to learn nothing. It means they want they want the mental well-being of the students, right? So this is an example of a straw man, right? Another example of straw man is, I'll give you one more example. For example, person A says, um, let's have, let's make the rules of the game more strict. Okay, for example, they're playing a game and somebody says, well, let's make the rules of the game more strict. And person B says, oh, so you want to take away all the fun from the game, right? So you want to take away all the fun, right? This is obviously not what the person A said, and maybe not. This is obviously not what the person A meant. But you see how person B represented the how the person B misrepresented the person A's intentions. Okay, this is two class examples of straw man. Straw means you make someone's argument look weak so that it's easier to attack. Okay, so ad hominem attacking the person. You just attack the person right away. So you're a stupid person, right? Just because you understand, right? And you can't trust Ali's opinion on something because, well, he's a stupid person or she failed midterm, something like that. And ad femina means you reject someone's opinion only because it is proposed by a woman. That's ad femina. Straw man means you misrepresent someone's argument to make it easier to attack. Other one is called false dilemma. And false dilemma is also very, very common in our in the way that people argue, right? It's also called either or fallacy. Either or fallacy. For example, um, presenting like you present opinion in such a way as if only two options exist, as if presenting only two options, right? When more options exist. Okay, when you say either this or that, या तो ये बात खत्म, right? This is called false dilemma. For example, right? Um, let's say if somebody says e either, and it's something it happens in politics at all, right? Either support PTI. I'll take a very political example. Either support PTI or you don't care about the country at all, right? This is a false dilemma, right? You only leave the person with only two options, right? One option is either support PTI, the other option is or you don't care about the country, right? Although there is a middle ground. You can be a non-supporter of PTI and you still care about the country, right? It can happen. मतलब जरूरी नहीं है कि पीटीआई के सपोर्टर्स ही जो है वो कंट्री का ख्याल रखते हैं और भी लोग हैं जो कंट्री का ख्याल रखते हैं जस्ट गिविंग एन एग्जांपल राइट आई होप इट मेक्स सेंस दिस इज कॉल्ड फॉल्स डिलेमा यू ओनली प्रेजेंटिंग टू ऑप्शंस राइट टू किसी चीज को किसी बंदे को फंसाने के लिए जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना सिर्फ उसको दो ऑप्शंस दो या तो ये बात खत्म हालांकि ऐसा नहीं होता व्हेन मोर ऑप्शंस एग्जिस्ट This is called false dilemma. This is something I'm going to write something which math teachers do a lot, right? Either you're good at maths or you're a failure, right? फॉर एग्जाम्पल किसी बच्चे से कहूँ कि तुम मैथ्स में अच्छे हो या तुम नालायक बच्चे हो, तो अब लाइक दिस स्टेटमेंट हैज अ हिडन फॉल्स डिलेमा, राइट? तो इस स्टेटमेंट में मैंने अज्यूम ये किया कि अच्छा बच्चा वही है जो सिर्फ मैथ्स में अच्छा होगा, वरना वो नालायक बच्चा है। लाइक ऐसा नहीं होता। लाइक देयर आर लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु आर वेरी गुड एट अदर सब्जेक्ट बट नॉट एट मैथ्स। इट डजंट मीन दे आर अ फेलियर, राइट? इट मीन्स they're just not good at a particular subject, right? So there is a third option, right? You cannot, I mean, it could be the case कि आप मैथ्स में अच्छे ना हो लेकिन you're still successful, very much possible, ठीक है? तो this is an example of false dilemma which our parents sadly create for us a lot around us. But yeah, I hope it makes sense. I hope you can relate a few examples to it as well. False dilemma. I'm going to write one more, the last one. I think will be good. And that is uh, circular reasoning. And this is also very, very common. Circular reasoning. And the name of this is called begging the question. Begging the question. You don't go for the name. Circular reasoning means जिस तरह मैं I'll give you an example. जिस तरह like हमारे कल्चर में बहुत ज्यादा होता है यार, हम किसी को अपनी बात समझा रहे हो, फॉर एग्जाम्पल हम कहते हैं यार मैं कह रहा हूँ ना, मैं सही बोल रहा हूँ, राइट? तो तो मेरे कहने से कि मैं सही बोल रहा हूँ वो बात सही थोड़ी हो जाएगी। मैं बोलो कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप मुझसे पूछ रहे हो कि क्या सबूत है कि तुम सही कह रहे हो, और मैं आगे से बोलूँ मैं कह रहा हूँ ना कि मैं सही बोल रहा हूँ, तो दिस इज कॉल्ड सर्कुलर रीजनिंग, राइट? मेरे सही होने का प्रूफ यही है कि मैं कह रहा हूँ मैं सही हूँ। दिस इज कॉल्ड सर्कुलर रीजनिंग। आई होप इट मेक्स सेंस, राइट? द कंक्लूजन रिपीट्स द premise. ये थोड़ी सी दिस इज अ वेरी टेक्निकल डेफिनेशन. दिस इज द conclusion. When the conclusion, the definitions will not be part of the exam, don't worry about it. The conclusion repeats the premise. ठीक है? Premise क्या होता है, conclusion क्या होता है, don't go after it. I'll just give you an example for it. For example, a book that um, a book is true because I would say a person is true. एक बंदे को मान लेना कि वो सही कह रहा है just because कि वो बोल रहा है कि मैं सही कह रहा हूँ, right? This is called circular reasoning. A person is true because he says, because she says she is true, all right? So this is called circular reasoning. It happens very often around us. For example, you say, I am trustworthy because I always tell the truth. मैं सच कह रहा हूँ because मैं हमेशा सच बोलता हूँ। तो मेरे सच्चे होने का प्रूफ अगर मैं खुद ही दे रहा हूँ तो दिस इज कॉल्ड सर्कुलर रीजनिंग. Okay, I'll give you a few statements and uh, let's see which fallacy is which fallacy people are making. And you can see the people making these fallacies all the time around us. Okay, so let's see. Don't listen to his physics explanation. He's terrible at sports. Now think about this. क्या किया हमने यहाँ पे कि फिजिक्स के बारे में एक बंदा कुछ एक्सप्लेन कर रहा है, जिसे डोंट लिसन टू हिज एक्सप्लेनेशन, ही इज टेरिबल एट स्पोर्ट्स. उसके स्पोर्ट्स का फिजिक्स के एक्सप्लेनेशन से क्या लेना देना है, राइट? तो व्हाट यू जस्ट डिड इज यू अटैक द पर्सन. ठीक है? तो ये जैसे क्लासिक एग्जांपल ऑफ एड होमिनम. आपने पर्सन पे अटैक, इज कॉल्ड एड होमिनम. ओके, राइट. इफ वी अलाउ फोन्स इन द क्लास सोन नो वन विल स्टडी एट ऑल. अगर हमने फोन्स क्लास में अलाउ कर दिए तो कोई भी नहीं पढ़ेगा, विच इज ट्रू, विच पार्टली ट्रू, राइट? लेकिन अगेन दिस इज अ स्ट्रॉ मैन आर्ग्यूमेंट. हमने किसी दूसरे बंदे का आर्ग्यूमेंट स्ट्रॉ मैन कर दिया. मैं थोड़ा सा एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ किस तरह से किया. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर मैंने बोला कि क्लासरूम में फोन अलाउ करने चाहिए, अलाउ होने चाहिए, ठीक है? अब मेरी इंटेंशन बोलने की ये हो सकती है कि क्लासरूम में फोन्स होंगे, बच्चे टेक्नोलॉजी यूज करेंगे, टेक्नोलॉजी से सीखेंगे, एआई यूज करेंगे एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट, राइट? मेरी कहने की नीयत अच्छी हो सकती है, लेकिन सामने वाला बोले कि अगर हमने क्लासरूम में फोन अलाउ किया फिर तो कोई नहीं पढ़ेगा। तो आपने क्या कर दिया, मेरा आर्ग्यूमेंट स्ट्रॉमैन कर दिया, राइट? जो मैं कहना चाह रहा था, हालांकि मैं कुछ और कहना चाहता था, लेकिन आपने मेरा आर्ग्यूमेंट को एग्जैजुरेटेड आउटकम पे ले जाके और आपने मेरा आर्ग्यूमेंट स्ट्रॉमैन कर दिया। दिस इज कॉल्ड स्ट्रॉमैन। अच्छा जी। थर्ड, यू इधर एग्री विद दिस रूल और यू डोंट रिस्पेक्ट दिस रूल। ठीक है, या तो इस रूल से एग्री कर लो, वरना तुम स्कूल की रिस्पेक्ट नहीं करते। तो ये इधर और नजर आ रहा है आपको? ठीक है, हमने फॉल्स डिलेमा, मतलब हो सकता है मैं स्कूल की बहुत रिस्पेक्ट करता हूँ लेकिन मैं इस रूल से एग्री नहीं करता हूँ। होता है ना बहुत सारे लोगों के स्कूल में। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आप में से अगर कोई टीचिंग करता है तो दिस इज वेरी कॉमन कि स्कूल के कुछ रूल्स के, स्कूल के स्टूपिड रूल्स होते हैं, तो आपको फॉलो करने पड़ते हैं, राइट? अगर आप क्वेश्चन करो रूल्स को तो इसका मतलब होता है कि ओ यू डोंट रिस्पेक्ट द इंस्टीट्यूशन, राइट? इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट, आई मे रिस्पेक्ट द इंस्टीट्यूशन एंड स्टिल डिसएग्री विद द रूल, राइट? तो हमने क्या बना दिया, फॉल्स डिलेमा बना दिया, राइट? सिर्फ दो ऑप्शन छोड़ दी, मतलब या तो ऑप्शन ये है कि रूल को एग्री करो, वरना यू डोंट रिस्पेक्ट द स्कूल। हालांकि थर्ड ऑप्शन मौजूद है। थर्ड ऑप्शन क्या है कि हो सकता है मैं स्कूल की रिस्पेक्ट करता हूँ, आई जस्ट डोंट एग्री विद द रूल, राइट? तो द थर्ड ऑप्शन exists, but the statement is presented in such a way that you took away the third option. Okay, she got one question wrong. अच्छा, ये आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू टेक दिस, दिस इज अनदर टाइप, और मैं इस टाइप को हमने डिस्कस नहीं किया, so I'm going to take it off. I'm not going to do this. अच्छा, एक मिनट। Okay, this rule is unfair. This rule is fair because it is the right thing to do. मतलब कोई बोले कि यार ये रूल बिल्कुल सही है क्योंकि यही करना चाहिए। अब थिंक अबाउट दिस, क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे? आप कोई एक्सटर्नल रीजन पेश नहीं कर रहे, आप कह रहे हो कि ये सही है क्योंकि ये सही है, राइट? तो ये क्या हो गया, ये सर्कुलर रीजनिंग हो गया। दिस इज बैगिंग द क्वेश्चन, सर्कुलर रीजनिंग, राइट? अब देखो, ये वो सारी चीजें यू कैन रिलेट इट टू योर लाइफ एज वेल। सी शी ही सेज वी शुड एक्सरसाइज मोर बट ही इज ओवरवेट। अच्छा, अब गौर करो यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है। एक बंदा बोलता है यार हमें एक्सरसाइज करनी चाहिए, ठीक है? एक बंदा, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं अगर मैं मोटा हूँ फॉर एग्जाम्पल, राइट, आई एम अ लिटिल ओवरवेट, तो अगर मैं बोलूँ यार, क्लास में बोलूँ कि बच्चों आप सबको एक्सरसाइज करनी चाहिए, और बच्चे बोले सर आप अपना वजन तो देखें, तो बच्चे इस वक्त क्या कमिट कर रहे हैं? दे आर कमिटिंग ए फैलेसी ऑफ एड होमिनम, राइट? मैं बात बिल्कुल सही कर रहा हूँ, राइट? लेकिन बात का जवाब देने के बजाय इफ यू स्टार्ट अटैकिंग द पर्सन, दिस इज कॉल्ड एड होमिनम। ठीक, एड होमिनम। ठीक है, ओके। नेक्स्ट, नंबर 7, सो यू वांट टू रिड्यूस द एग्जाम्स, दैट मीन्स यू वांट द स्टूडेंट्स टू बी अनएजुकेटेड। अब यहाँ पे क्या हुआ, एक बंदा कहना चाह रहा है कि हमें एग्जाम्स कम करने चाहिए, बच्चों की मेंटल, फॉर एग्जांपल मैं कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि हमें एग्जाम्स कम कर देना चाहिए बच्चों की मेंटल वेलबींग के लिए, राइट? ताकि बच्चों पे बर्डन कम हो, और एग्जाम के चक्कर में बच्चे सीख नहीं पाते बहुत ज्यादा क्योंकि एग्जाम का स्ट्रेस होता है एंड सो ऑन, राइट? मेरे 1,000 रीजन हो सकते हैं, और आप बदले में मुझे बोलो अच्छा तो तुम चाहते हो कि एग्जाम कम हो जाए ताकि बच्चे जो है अनपढ़ रह जाए। तो ये क्या किया, अब वो बोलोगे नहीं मैंने तो ऐसा बोला बोला ही नहीं, दैट्स नॉट व्हाट आई मेंट, राइट? लेकिन आपने क्या किया, मेरा आर्ग्यूमेंट लिया और उसको क्या कर दिया, स्ट्रॉ मैन कर दिया। दिस इज कॉल्ड स्ट्रॉ मैन। आई सॉट, अच्छा ये मैं ये भी नहीं ले रहा बिकॉज दिस इज अनदर टाइप ऑफ लॉजिकल फैलेसी जो मैं नहीं ले रहा। अच्छा, ओके, इधर वी बैन सोशल मीडिया और स्टूडेंट विल फेल एवरीथिंग। अगर तुम सोशल मीडिया बैन करना चाहिए स्टूडेंट फेल हो जाएंगे। अब देखो यहाँ पे, अभी लुक फॉर इधर और, यहाँ पे आपको इधर और नजर आ रहा होगा, या तो ये वरना तो तबाही है बस, या तो ये वरना तो कुछ भी नहीं है भाई। तो इफ somebody says दिस, तो दिस इज कॉल्ड दिस इज कॉल्ड फॉल्स डिलेमा, राइट? मैं एक और पॉलिटिकल एग्जांपल देता हूँ इसकी। लोग बोलते हैं या तो इमरान खान वजीर आजम बनेगा वरना ही तो पाकिस्तान तबाह हो जाएगा, बोलते हैं लोग, आपने सुना होगा, राइट? मैं आई एम नॉट लाइक आई एम नॉट टेकिंग एनी साइड्स ओवर हियर, जस्ट ट्राइंग टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल कि पीपल गिव अ पीपल यू नो, एक दो ऑप्शन बचे, सिर्फ दो ऑप्शन दे दिए, या तो एक ऐसा होगा नहीं तो पाकिस्तान तबाह हो जाएगा, राइट? विच इज ऑफ कोर्स फॉल्स डिलेमा, देयर कुड बी अ थर्ड ऑप्शन, राइट? ओके, दिस मेथड वर्क्स बिकॉज इट इज इफेक्टिव। ये मेथड सही है क्योंकि ये सही है, राइट? तो ये क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे, आप एक्सटर्नल की एविडेंस पेश नहीं कर रहे, आप सिर्फ सर्कुलर रीजनिंग पे कर रहे हो, क्योंकि ये सही है, क्योंकि ये कह रहा है ये सही है। ठीक है, तो दिस इज कॉल्ड सर्कुलर रीजनिंग। ठीक है, so I hope it makes sense, right? I hope it gives you a clear picture of how people commit these these logical fallacies all the time around us. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. And with this, this is the last lecture of our quantitative reasoning. All the best for your exams.